Norway is a very rich country. There's virtually zero poverty there. You'll hardly ever see homeless people. If the people don't have a home, basically the government will get them in a home and help them out until they can get a job and working. So some of the poor people have it better than the people in the U.S., like the middle class people in the U.S. But in Norway, there's a huge middle class of people, and there's very few rich or poor people. They just have a enormous middle class where everyone's about the same because of all the taxes that they have and everything like that. In Norway, there's an enormous, especially if you're in the larger cities, there's an enormous amount of refugees from other countries. So that's a majority of the people that you'll teach are these refugees from Africa and Spain and all these different countries that are there. Mostly African countries. I've met someone from almost every country in Africa at some point while I was there. But they just live there, and they'll help them find jobs in Norway and help them learn the language and everything like that. And you'll meet them everywhere, and they're all super nice. But daily life, public transportation is huge there. Everyone basically takes the bus. A car is so expensive there. Not very few people, but a lot of people will just rely on the public transportation. It works really well there. Missionaries have no problem getting around. There are cars for missionaries there, but not in every area. Very few of the areas have cars. Work, a lot of the people there just have normal jobs like you'd have here in the US. There aren't very many. Oil's a huge deal there. So a lot of people will work with the oil companies, and they'll be in certain areas in Norway. When you're a missionary, there'll be families from America or other countries that are moved over there for oil that are members. Shopping in Norway, every city has a center, like a midpoint, where it's basically like you just walk the streets. They're like too narrow for cars to get in, and so you have to park on like the outsides of it. But it's like a shopping area where there's just like food stores and shopping, like clothes stores, and you just kind of walk through, and all of them are like really pretty and nice, and that's where you'll do most, like you're talking to people you're contacting is in these cities if you're a missionary. But everything is super expensive there. Everything will be about 5 times more expensive there than it is here, just because the cost of living is so much higher there.
The different sections of Norway are very different from one another, like Eastern Norway versus Western Norway and Northern Norway, and they each have their own individual culture, it seems. If I were to take all of the cities and put them into one and describe them, I would say that it's very modern, up-to-date, very clean. I get a very big feeling that it's just very clean and orderly in Norway. Their transportation systems are excellent. For example, they have the bybane, which is the city train in Bergen that goes through most of the city and to the church or to the main city or even to your apartment. That would just run right through town. Or for example, in Oslo, you have many different methods of transportation. You have the trikk, which is like the city tram, which is much like the Bergen bybane. But you also have the subway, and you have the senior couple had a car, but we didn't necessarily, but we could travel by car. And then my favorite way to travel in Oslo was with the bysykler, which are the city bikes. And we could get anywhere the most quickly with those city bikes, where they have a certain station that you would use a card and unlock the bike to wherever you needed, and there'd be another station waiting there, and you would just lock your bike there. And it would register that you had taken your bike and then delivered it somewhere else, so you weren't stealing it. And a lot of people used that system, and it worked very, very well for us, especially missionaries when we had to book it from one side of town to the other. Another thing about the cities is that they are generally quite small compared to New York or Los Angeles. I've heard Oslo described as the biggest small town you've ever been into. And it feels like that. It feels close and comfortable there. When it comes to crime and safety in Norway, it is one of the safest countries out there. Norwegians themselves believe very strongly against violence in general, and so you can be very severely prosecuted for performing any kind of violent act at all. They take it very, very seriously there. And I recall going and knocking on doors, and we'd just be walking around. It'd be, probably 7:30 or 8 p.m. at night, and then we'd have, just like a little girl just walking past, just playing in the snow by herself in the middle of the night. That would never happen in Southern California, where I'm from. And so it was a very big surprise to me just how safe it was in Norway. Norwegian houses are generally very colorful, and they're beautiful, and Norwegians like to take care of their homes and of their gardens. Generally for work, it really depends on where you are. So for example, in Western Norway, in the cities of Bergen and Stavanger, my favorite areas, they work on, what are they called? Oil rigs. They work on oil rigs. And so they'd be gone for 3 or 4 weeks and be home for 3 or 4 weeks, gone for 3 or 4 weeks, and so forth. And they do very well with that money. But on their 3 or 4 weeks off, they would take it, mountain biking, road biking, swimming, going camping with their family. And yeah, they have a very comfortable, enjoyable lifestyle.